So how do my husband and I afford to travel around the world to beautiful places with our 2 young children in this inflated economy? Today I'm going to be sharing so many tips and tricks that I have learned over the years, how to travel on a budget and even get vacations for completely free. It is possible, let me tell you, and who doesn't love free? If you're new here, my name is Janine. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2 littles and I love it. My husband is the main breadwinner of this family and the majority of his income goes to all our living expenses, our food, our housing, the bills, everything. And so I knew that if we wanted to travel and see the world, if we wanted to continue doing this and kind of make a lifestyle out of it every year to be able to go somewhere, I would need to figure out solutions and creative ways to make it happen. So I'm here to tell you that if I can do it, anyone can do it, but let me warn you, it does take a lot of time and effort and work. There's no secret sauce, no secret website that you can just magically go to and get a free vacation. This takes effort and time, but if you love traveling as much as we do, it is so worth it because without it, we wouldn't have been able to see the many places that we have. I'm going to be sharing a lot of different things, so hopefully you can keep up. And if anything stumps you because I'm just covering the surface, do your own research. Every topic that I cover, you can dive into it as deeply as you want. YouTube, Google, they're amazing places to search for this stuff. Before we start, just saying it isn't lost on me the incredible privilege to have extra money to put towards things. So an extra $50, an extra $100, an extra $1,000, that's a lot of money. So I wanted to throw that out there because even if a typical certain type of vacation might cost a family generally $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, even if we can afford and make it happen for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for a family of 4, that is still a lot of money and nothing to cough at. So when I say budget travel, I do mean sometimes free travel. It all depends on you and your circumstances and the time you have and just your lifestyle. But I also want to say that by budget travel, that term might mean something completely different to some people than others. So you can take all these tips and modify them to your lifestyle. It just kind of depends. But to me, it's like if typically a vacation for a family of 4 ranges from $7,000 to $12,000, that is completely crazy for us. Like if that's the case, then we would travel maybe twice in our lifetime. But if you can get that cost down, way down to $2,000, to $1,000, to $500, or to 0, we've done a lot of variations of that, then it becomes an option for us as a family. But it is still a privilege to have extras and something I'm super grateful for. I don't know if any of you listen to Dave Ramsey. He is sort of the Christian financial guru. I love listening to stories, but one thing that has struck me with him and all the calls he gets in, it is very common for us as a human race, and I'm including myself in this, to have lifestyle creep. You might earn more and you think you have all these expenses, but a lot of it is just things that you're losing money in the cracks, or you're not being intentional with your spending, or you think you need something when you really don't, or you have all this debt that is just bogging you down. And one of those places is eating out. I'm just blown away by what they claim statistically is true, how much the average American family eats out. I read somewhere that more than 50% of Americans eat out 3 or more times a week. And this was on Dave Ramsey's site. I think this was stats from 2023. It said married couples with kids spend between $462 to $519 per month eating out. That comes to $5,543 to $6,225 per year just in eating out. Let me just put it out there. I am not the queen of budgeting at all. I have so many weaknesses in all this. So I include myself in this statistic that we have money that just slips into cracks that we don't realize. And if we were more intentional, we could maybe stop doing some of those things, save money, and intentionally save towards something if travel means a lot to you. All right, first off, let's define what kind of traveler you are. There are various different types of travelers. You might like luxury and you just want to be pampered and you want to go to spas and you want to eat amazing food. You might want to go to resorts. You might be more into amusement parks and thrills and paying for entertainment. Or you might be more into culture, experiencing local food and cuisine, and experiencing geography, history, all of that. So you have to understand what kind of traveler you are ahead of time because the way we travel isn't for everyone. And a lot of the things we do, we sacrifice in because certain things are important to us. Along with that, you have to ask yourself how often you want to travel. Some people want to travel only once every 5 to 10 years. Some people want to travel every year, some people every few months. So a lot of these factors figure into it. what kind of traveler you are, how often you want to travel, and your lifestyle. We love culture, we love meeting local people, we love the local food, we like to see how the people live in certain areas. We do go to some touristy spots, but they're not our favorite, especially if they're overly touristy, because it just feels fake to us. And so we prioritize culture, and to do that, we don't mind sacrificing in other areas, and I'm going to be covering that. So let's jump into how we travel, and if you're like us and you're more of a cultural style traveler, and I don't know why I'm holding two pens, but if you're more into traveling for culture, food, and the experience, then a lot of these tips will apply to you. But if you are one of the other travelers, they will still apply to you. It just might be a little different in some areas. So number one, be flexible. If you can be flexible on your dates, the prices of tickets can vary drastically. And I'm talking both booking like during the week, like often leaving on a Tuesday or Wednesday and coming home on a Tuesday or Wednesday gets you the best flight deals. Flying on weekends, they're usually a lot higher. Another tip is if you can fly in shoulder seasons, if you have that luxury and aren't tied down to school. We love to travel right after school starts or right before school lets out. And these are shoulder seasons, which often is still beautiful weather in different of these locations, yet you're getting more bargain prices in your flights, also in your hotels and different places because you're not there in peak season. My favorite place to find flights is Google Flights, and the reason that I like it is because you can pull it up on calendar view, and every day you can see the price on that date, so it's easy to find which days have the cheapest flights, and you'd be amazed. It can be a couple $100 difference. One other thing to note, always search in incognito mode, because as soon as you search for a particular flight, then what's going to happen is they put cookies onto your browser, and then they will actually up the price for just for you for that ticket. I have seen it happen. I forgot to do it. I come back later and they up the price just for me because they knew I wanted to go to this certain place. So make sure you do that as well. There are other great search engines like Skyscanner. Do your own research. Google Flights still is my favorite to find flights just because it's so easy to use. They search across multiple websites. They're like constantly, they're searching all these other places too. And then they take you directly to that website wherever they found that cheap deal. Another thing that you can do is be flexible on your departure airport. You can search around your area. Like for us, we have Washington, D.C., we have Baltimore, we have New York City. All within about 2.5, 3 hours. We have Philadelphia, we have Pittsburgh. We have a lot of airports. Some of them I don't really feel like driving that far to, but if they have a really, really good deal going out of them, that also helps. So see, this is where things can get time consuming because you can search multiple dates, you can search multiple departure airports, you can search multiple arrival airports anywhere. So you can see how this can become time consuming. Sometimes buying one-way tickets is cheaper, not always, but sometimes than it is to buy round trip tickets. This can work in so many different ways. You could fly out of one airport, get a one-way over to your destination, and then buy one way back to a different airport if it's cheaper. There's that option. There's also options where you can buy a one way, say you're going to Europe, and Europe's flights are cheaper within their within Europe, and so you could buy a one-way ticket to one of the cheapest destinations and then from there buy another one-way ticket to wherever you wish to go in Europe instead of buying your round-trip tickets to your destination, if that makes sense. Number two is let your trip or vacation choose you, not the other way around, you choose your vacation. We've done this so many times. This is also part of being flexible, and if you're into culture, this is kind of one of those exciting things like, this place, it's really cheap, we could get here cheap. Does it look like something that we would enjoy experiencing? Some random little country you never thought of going to. And there's a couple of different ways of doing this. First off, there's different places that you can sign up for travel alerts. People will like search for mistakes that airlines made in their booking or just a random deal that's going on, and they'll email you, and you can and they'll tell you about flight deals, so you can let them know what your home airport is, and then they'll just give you all the great deals of flights going out. There's one called Going. It used to be Scott's Cheap Flights, and there's another one that I like. It's called Fair Drop. So there's various ones, but they will send you alerts. So that's a great option. Another great option is to search for anywhere in your destination. I believe Google Flights does this, and also Skyscanner. Different ones do, but you can just search wherever you want to leave from and then just go anywhere, and you'll start seeing like flights all over the world and what they're going for. You can put in different dates, different times, and see how much it fluctuates, and you can find some incredibly cheap flights this way. As I was editing this video and pulling up examples of how to search flights, I just randomly came across an incredible deal. So if you're very flexible on your dates and where you're going, look at this, a $65 flight one way to Spain. Like seriously, sure, it has a really long layover somewhere, probably not the greatest of flights, off season, but $65 from the United States in New York City to Spain. It's these kinds of things that a lot of people don't realize, and you can fly insanely cheap to a lot of places. And that flight just popped up by using Skyscanner, and it only took me a few minutes to find it as I was editing this video. So there you go, there's an example, be flexible. So the combination of being flexible on your dates and also your destinations is an excellent combo for finding cheap flights. Number 3, don't be afraid to buy budget airlines. And this can scare some people, but we rarely fly anything except budget. There's a lot of downsides to flying budget. It's more cramped, it's a bare bones airplane, seats aren't that comfortable. Often they don't let you sit together unless you pay extra. Like on our Hawaii trip, we flew budget airlines for most of them, and we were split up as a family the majority of our flights. That's a downside, and a lot of people aren't willing to sacrifice that for a price, and I can understand why, but it's just one of the ways we save. Also, they charge you for luggage. But often these budget airlines are hundreds of dollars cheaper, and if you can kind of figure out to just how to deal with them and just move through, you can save so much money and get to amazing places. This brings me on to point number 4, is to travel lightly, and if you at all can, just do it with a backpack. Telling you this is the most amazing way to travel, and experienced travelers will tell you that traveling light is the only way to go. Honestly, I know when we first started, we always packed way too much. We didn't use half the things we packed. And then you're dragging suitcases behind you, and it's just a headache getting in and out of taxis, in and out of buses, waiting for your luggage at the airport. Sometimes your luggage can get lost. All these headaches that come with luggage. Definitely skip the big bags. Try to do it in a backpack, but if you absolutely must, which a lot of people probably do, you can do a carry-on up above, but then again, some of these budget airlines charge you for that, and so then suddenly you're losing some of your savings. And on our Hawaii trip, we maximized on this. We had since we were paying for each of the children to have a seat, we just got them each a backpack, full-size backpack that was able to fit under the seat. We had a stroller, those are always free, so we were able to plop the car seat and the onto the stroller and some of the bags that the children couldn't carry. So it was a little bit of a headache, but we packed our whole family in backpacks to Hawaii and that we were gone for 2 weeks. So I also had a lot of camera gear along, so come on. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Another tip along with that, if you can layer up, if you have like heavy coats, make sure to wear them, throw them on your backpack. They're not gonna charge you for that. Now, there is like recommended sizes for under the seats. Some of our backpacks are a little bit bigger than that size, but we've never had them pulled from us. One thing that helps is to check in online, so you just skip that whole process in the front. That's another thing, you don't have to check in luggage. You can just check in online, you have your backpacks on you, and you just go straight to security. Sometimes my bag, I have to stuff it pretty hard to get under a seat, but so far it's worked great for us. Number 5, using public transport, buses, trains, that can be real savings. We don't like to travel this way as much. I love the freedom of having a car, a rental car, but we'll talk more about ways we can do that as well. But we have also used local transport, jumping on buses. A few bucks will get you to where you need to go, and you get to just experience the local life the way the locals do. Number 6, instead of booking hotels, book vacation rentals like Airbnbs. This used to be a lot more of a savings back pre-2020, I believe. We used to travel this way a lot. You could save so much money by getting an Airbnb, but now Airbnbs are almost becoming more expensive than hotels, and it's a real pain, but you can still find good deals on them. But we do still prefer this, especially if it's a longer stay, especially with children, as it feels more homey, like you have your home base. And also you get a kitchen, which I'm going to talk about later. Cooking is a big way to save. And if you're traveling lightly, like with a backpack, you really do need a place to do laundry, and it's handy to do it at your house where you can throw it in when you go out in the morning and dry it in the evening instead of trying to find a laundromat. So we love Airbnbs. Number 7, eat out at a minimum. Food is like one of the biggest expenses. So if you can keep eating out to a minimum, it saves so much money. And I know that's a real pain because when you go on vacation, who wants to cook, right? Who wants to make your own food? But if you're traveling with a family, that saves a ton. If it's just like a couple, it's not as big of a deal. So for us, we definitely like to have our breakfasts on hand, eat the majority of them at home. They're quick and easy to make. Snacks, lunches, you can go to the local markets, you can go to grocery stores and just stock up on groceries, snacks, beverages, coffee, whatever you need, bring it back to your house, and then take food with you so you're not constantly buying on the road. Here and there, maybe grab street food or a little bit of a snack or coffee on the road, and then save our eating out meals for dinner when we can sit down and really enjoy the local cuisine. But on our last trip, Hawaii is really expensive, and so we did the majority of our food at home. We had a family, we had some friends along. We pre-planned our whole meals, all our ingredients from breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We decided which days we would plan to eat out. And I know that sounds like who wants to do that, right? But for us, it's like either be wise about it and plan it all out, or you can't go at all, right? So I'd rather do that and put the effort into it. And then one thing that's really handy with some of these places, like Hawaii is still part of the US, so you could do like grocery pickup at Walmart and have your grocery pickup order waiting, and we landed and we could go pick it up. We had some glitches with that, but it all worked out in the end. We were able to keep our food costs pretty low on our last trip in Hawaii. Another thing I like to do is pack snacks ahead of time. This helps you in traveling if you need something in the airport. Airport food is so expensive. And then also out and about, when you suddenly just need to eat, you have like an energy bar, some nuts, something like that. That always helps. Number 8, search out free attractions. Again, depends what kind of traveler you are. If you want all the entertainment and all the touristy stuff, I'm not sure if I have a lot of advice for you there. We like to go to some of that, but we don't fill our trip with those things. We try to seek out free attractions, low-cost attractions. Nolan likes museums. Some museums have free days. You could check into that. We love the outdoors, hiking, scenery, driving around, seeing the local culture. So that's usually free. So yeah, for us, we usually do no paid entertainment, or we'll choose like 1 or 2 for the entire trip, and that's our highlight. So trust me, it sounds like, my goodness, you're planning every little detail. Why not just loosen up and have fun? This is why, is because money will leave so quickly if you don't have a budget and a plan in place. We have done this so often where we will fly out to see my husband's family in Oregon, and we don't really plan anything, or we'll go to just Florida, which feels like it's our next door neighbor state, and it's not really, but it's not that far from us. You can hop and a skip. You can get like $50 flights down there sometimes, and we're like, oh, this is cheap. We're in the States, nothing to really worry about. And suddenly we come home, we weren't really mindful of how much we spent. We tally it all up, and we've spent more than we would have spent on like 2 weeks on a very carefully planned trip to Paris, or wherever, Barbados, like we went one time, or Alaska. All these places that we were very careful and strategic in our planning. So it pays to make a plan. Which leads me to number 9, pre-plan and budget every detail, which I was trying to follow my notes and I got ahead of myself. I have started using spreadsheets. This is really handy. Just make a spreadsheet, start putting in what flights cost, what your lodging costs, rentals, and plan every detail. You get better at this the more you travel, but there's so many little unexpected costs that come up. For instance, did you figure in airport parking? Because that can be like $100, you know, depending how long you're gone. Maybe a friend could drop you off for that. Are you renting a car? And if you are, did you research if there's parking where you're going to, like free parking? Are you going to be paying a lot for parking? If you're in a city, likely so, which if you're in a city, you probably don't need a car. If you rented a car, you're also going to have gas prices. There's things like insurance, possibly. I'll touch more on that later. So there's all these little things that can quickly add up. So I just recommend you start from the beginning and just think through your trip from when you start, all the possible scenarios, and then also add in a little bit extra or maybe a lot extra, for all the unexpected costs that come up. And the more you travel, the less that happens, the unexpected costs. All right, number 10, this is my last point on the budgeting side, and then we're gonna move on to free and how to get free vacations. So number 10 is there's this website, we have not yet tried it, but we still wish to sometime. It's called workaway.info. I'll try to remember to link it below. And this is a concept. There are people from all over the world that go onto this website and say, hey, we would like help in this certain thing. We're building this project. We need help around our farm. We have a coffee farm. We're in harvest season. There is a host. There's orphanages, there's schools, very neat opportunities, and they would like volunteers to help. And in exchange, you get free food and lodging often. Not always free food, but at least free breakfast and lunch. And usually it's like 3 to 5 hours of work a day, and then you have the rest of the day to do what you wish. And this to me sounds like an amazing opportunity for very budget-friendly travel. You have your accommodations, and you're also being immersed into culture like 101. You get to meet a local, they get to know them. I know that can be a little nerve-wracking. It would make me a good bit nervous to do that, but I can understand how it would just be an amazing experience. You get to help them out, build relationships, get to know the locals, the local lifestyle way better, and in exchange you're helping them and you're getting free accommodations and food for your work. So there you go. It's a little bit harder to do as a family with children and for shorter amounts of time. Often they would like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or more. But yeah, sometimes you can find some pretty interesting options. Those are my main tips, and there's a lot of other ways that you can strategically save money when you're traveling, but it does take a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and I really think you have to enjoy it, because I have talked to people that do not enjoy this. It just makes their head explode, and it looks overwhelming to them, and to them it's much more convenient to like pay a travel agent to plan their whole trip from point A to point B. And so if you're not an experienced traveler, some of this can be very overwhelming to plan your trip from point A to point B and all the details in between. But it's not as bad as it may seem. Once you start getting used to it, start off small and simple, go to one place, don't do a lot of things, just stay at that one location, and you'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll figure out how to get from point A to point B. We have Google Translate if you're going to another country and you don't know the language. Don't sweat it. But if you're the kind of person that would rather just pay someone to do it for you, there's no shame in that. It's just that some of us, like we couldn't afford to do that, because I remember talking to a friend and I was trying to give her some tips and tricks on how to save money. And to her, some things seemed like an incredible deal, but she wasn't really used to traveling, and I knew that she was overpaying, or maybe they didn't want to sacrifice on some of the things we willingly sacrifice on. And so to her, it was just kind of a once-in-a-lifetime trip that she wanted to do. She probably wouldn't do it again for quite a few years. So to her, it wasn't a priority to save money, because this was like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So it was easier to just let someone else plan it for them and to pay more for that. And then also just to make sure everything runs smoothly and they don't have as much headache. So it really depends what kind of person you are and what kind of travel you like to do. Okay, moving on, we're gonna jump into all things how to get free travel. This is so exciting. I'm gonna take a quick break because I am tired of talking. I'm redoing this in the future because I rambled so much on this section that it was incohesive and you guys would have just left me long ago. So I'm going to try to pull this together, consolidate it in as quick of a way as I can. We are going to talk about credit card rewards and points and how to strategize using credit cards to get free vacations. And when you take all the budgeting tips I just shared, there's also more that I'm still learning and more that you could learn just by researching. But anyway, if you take all the budgeting tips and you combine them with credit card hacking, you can just do so much and you can get free vacations or very cheap vacations. So for Nolan and I, we try to get 3 things mainly covered by credit cards, and that would be airfare, lodging, and our transportation when we're there. And anything else that can be travel related on a credit card, such as airport parking and so on. And then we budget the rest for like our food and other expenses we might have. So that's usually what we put towards a trip. There's sometimes we don't and we pay more. And then there's other trips that we do that we don't spend anything out of pocket, pretty much. If you struggle with viewing a credit card as just a way to buy something now and pay later, where you don't have the money to actually pay it, then don't do this, because the interest that credit cards charge is astronomical and you will not get any rewards and benefits if you're paying interest. Consumer debt is one of the worst things that you can have, and you have to be responsible with a credit card. The only way to view a credit card is like a debit card. You are only purchasing things that you have money for. So we have to be responsible with credit cards because they can be a dangerous trap and they can be so tempting, and you can quickly spend a lot of money you weren't planning to. I speak for myself. I know that. Okay, so why do we love credit cards so much? There's a few different things. A big one that we use for traveling is sign-up bonuses. I'll talk more about that later. Obviously, the rewards you get from spending money. Every credit card usually offers you a certain percentage back per dollar that you spend, or a certain amount of miles and points. And then you also get extra benefits and perks, like you might get insurance, different types of travel insurance, car insurance, different liability things. You have, like in travel credit cards, sometimes you get access to certain lounges, and there's just a host of other benefits that also can come with credit cards. And lastly, I feel much safer with a credit card. One of those things being they protect you against fraud. So nowadays, often people can steal your credit card information so easily. People will put these little, I'm not sure what they're called, but they can slip something into a credit card machine, like at the gas station or somewhere. No one knows, and they're just reading all your credit card information. They can steal it online and so on. And if you have a debit card, that will be coming out of your bank and you have no fraud protection, and that really freaks me out. I don't want to take the chance of constantly using my debit card and spreading that access all over just in case someone is stealing that information and I don't have fraud protection. I have had this happen a few times where suddenly there's an unknown charge on my account. Often the credit card company will pick it up and they'll message you and say, did you just spend this? But if they don't catch it, you can just call in and they'll verify it and they'll just refund your money. It's amazing. So there's so many benefits about credit cards if you use them responsibly. So in the miles and points world, I'm going to be kind of brushing over the surface, like the entry level way of doing it, the way that I've been doing it for many years. But there are people that are major gurus in this space, and you can like just maximize points across all kinds of different companies and brands, and you can transfer points from your credit card to another partner and you get more value for those points, and then you search for deals and you get even more value for those points. It can get very overwhelming, and I understand why people don't want to get into it because they think it's just this nightmare. So the only way I encourage you to do that is if you are already entered into it and you want to take your points and miles thing to the next level. So if people tell you that you're not getting the maximum value, for instance, kind of the average, you don't want to go below this, but the average across credit cards is having 1 point or mile equal 1 cent. And if you go below that, it's really poor. But a lot of people in this space will try to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 cents per point. That's really high, but it's mostly like 3 to 5 cents per point by doing all this transfer stuff, and it can get to be really time consuming and a big headache. So don't let them discourage you by saying you're wasting your points by just using 1 cent per point value. Okay, I might be losing you, but I just wanted to throw that out there. We're just gonna be talking surface level a little bit, the easiest way that I find it, and then if you want to dive into this deeper, you can later on, because it's a whole world, and it's a fun world. Now, there is a host of different types of credit cards. For us, we kind of tend to focus on travel credit cards. I think they offer often the most value for your spend. They have a lot of perks and stuff. So some of the things you want to look for is when you're looking for a new credit card is, number one is look at what kind of sign-up bonus they're offering. So a credit card company wants to get you in the door. They want new customers, new referrals, and so they'll offer a sign-up bonus, and it'll often look like something like this. They'll offer you $200, $300, $400 back, either in cash back, like towards your credit card statement, give you a check, or they'll give it to you in miles and points if it's like a travel credit card, if you spend a certain amount of money within a few months. We have taken advantage of quite a few that have been offering, like, say, 650,000 miles, which basically, if you're translating that 1 cent per point, comes to $650 towards travel credit or more. We have taken advantage of $750 value, $1,000 value, and even up to like $3,000 values. Just for a sign-up bonus for signing up for a credit card. Now, you have to be careful. You don't want to just go and sign up for a ton. It can hurt your credit. But these sign-up bonuses are a huge hack for a lot of people and how they get to travel. So like we try to go on a trip about once a year, and usually before we go on the trip, we sign up for a new credit card, and then we hit that minimum spend. It's often like $3,500, $4,000 in, say, like 3 to 6 months. And if you spend that amount on the card over that time, then they'll reward you with that sign-up bonus, and then you can use that towards your trip. But there's a few downsides with this that some people worry about. Applying for credit cards can hurt your credit score a little bit. If you apply for too many in a short amount of time, it will really hurt your credit score. However, Nolan and I have been doing this for many years, and we have very, very good credit. So I don't know if it's just people that are just incredibly dialed into their credit score, and a few points just means the world to them. We don't worry about that as long as we're in the very good to excellent credit score, we're happy. And so we have signed up for so many cards between the two of us. So that's my first tip, is sign up bonuses is a big thing. If you're planning a trip, think about signing up for a new credit card. And then once you get the sign up bonus, if you want to stay on with a credit card, you can do that. Or you can quit using it, tuck it away. If it has an annual fee, one of the things that I recommend doing is downgrading. Credit cards usually have tiers, and you can downgrade to a level below that has no annual fee. And then just lock the card on your account or whatever, so it can never be used. Or you can cancel the card, but sometimes that can also put a ding in your credit, so we just tend to leave them open. Maybe I can lock them on my account so they can't be used during that time. So just a few things to know if you do this. Don't sign up for too many all at once. Just kind of spread it out, a few a year, one a year. If you're new to this, definitely just start with one. Just kind of feel your way through it, and if you like it, then later on, another year or half a year later, you can maybe try another one. Another thing, if you have a spouse, it makes it really handy if you can refer each other. So often credit cards have referral bonuses. Nolan and I have done this for a trip. We know a trip will likely cost a certain amount of money, and so maybe I'll sign up for the card, we'll hit our minimum spend in however many months, and I'll get the cash back, and then I can refer my husband, then I get another kickback. It's often like $50, sometimes more in value if someone accepts a referral offer. And so there's more for you, and then they have those. And then between the two of you, you both have this sign up bonus. Let's just say it's $750 each. Then suddenly you are at $1,500 of free money that you can put towards a trip. And the extra, say $50 from me referring him, and then we're at $1,550. And soon things like that start racking up. Plus, that spending that you were already doing is gaining you points and miles. So for every dollar that you spend, a lot of credit cards, if you're wise with the ones you chose, will give you back, at minimum, will give you back 2 points per dollar. So if you spend $1, you get 2 points. And just to put that in perspective, if your points are valuing out at a cent per point, which they should be, then 100 points would be $1 back. And so let's just say your minimum requirement is to spend $4,000 in 3 or 4 months, and you spend that money. So that would be $4,000 would be 8,000 in points, right? Did I do that right? 4,000, 8,000. So that would be $80 that you got back just from the points alone, just from spending. Then you have also your sign-up bonus. So things start stacking up, but the sign-up bonus is the real way to give a real boost in your value. Okay, and so then people that are into credit card hacking, as they call it, they will just repeat this process every so often, and before long you are being able to vacation for free. And it has opened so many doors for us, and it can be a little bit of a headache, and a lot of people are like, man, it just looks so overwhelming. Like, how do points work? It sounds so complicated, miles and points, and I get it, but let me just tell you about one credit card that I feel is an excellent beginner credit card. We have had it for years. I don't know when we first got it, probably in our beginning years of married life, so I'm guessing at least 10 years or so, 12 years maybe. And there's a couple in the family. So the free version is, I believe, the Venture One. It's Capital One Venture, by the way. And there's a free version, but the thing with the free version is you don't get as much value in points back for every dollar that you spend. So if you spend $1, I think you only get like 1.5 points or a point back. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that the Capital One Venture will pay you 2 points per dollar across the board. And then you get a lot of perks. I think it's like a $95 a year charge. We got it back when it was $65, which is amazing. If you travel a lot, it would be worth it to pay that, like if you're traveling enough to make up for that annual fee. But there is one other credit card that is the elite version of this that we have actually just recently gotten, which was one of the cards that helped pay our Hawaii trip, and my battery's dying. I have talked enough already. I can't go into detail with all these things. Honestly, each little point that I cover, just type in that topic into YouTube, and there's people that have made videos on this stuff. You can research into this in depth. And so for like, say these credit cards, you could type in best travel credit cards, or you could, if you want to go the Capital One route, you could type in comparison between Capital One Venture One versus Capital One Venture. And then they'll tell you all the perks and benefits, and you don't have to sit here and listen to me rant for however long. Okay, so then their top tier credit card, which we just recently signed up for a business credit card for Mama Java. That has been amazing, and I see that this actually, if you do end up traveling a lot, back in our beginner years of married life, we didn't travel enough that this would have ever been worth it. But if you start traveling enough and spending enough money on travel, like for instance, when we fly out to Nolan's family a fair amount as well, and we have children to pay for, and so suddenly you have a lot more cost in travel as well. And so this card costs, gasp, $395 a year just to have the card. However, the value that it gives back erases that completely. Whereas the Venture card, you pay $95, and the only thing that you get back that covers the $95 is a credit of $100 every 4 years for global entry or TSA pre-check. So it's basically $100 every 4 years. Whereas the Venture X, they give you a credit of 100,000 miles, which equates to $100 if it's 1 cent per point every year anniversary. So right there, it brings your $395 total for the annual fee down to $295. And then they also give you, I believe it's a $300 or is it $200? I'll put it here on the screen. I'm not sure which it is. It's a credit every year in your travel portal. So if you book through their personal, every credit card has their own travel portal that you can book through with your points. And if you book through that, they'll give you a credit every year for that amount that you can put towards travel. And I figured it all up until it's all done. You're actually getting paid $5 to have the card if you use all their perks and rewards. So you're paying it out of pocket every year, but you're getting it back in travel for sure. You're not just paying a fee and not seeing it again. So that is something to consider if you travel a lot. VentureX has access to a ton of lounges. So if you're traveling, you can go into various priority lounges. Capital One Lounge, you get free food. Some of them have showers and places to sleep and office spaces, and all of this is just because you're a card member. So they can be so nice. We did this in Hawaii. We went to a Capital One Lounge and the whole family ate for free. So you have those kinds of benefits. You have the perks of having different types of insurance for traveling. If your luggage gets lost, you have some form of car insurance, just various different things. If flights get delayed to a certain extent, they'll help you cover costs. I don't know the full extent of it, but there's various different travel perks. Plus, you can use your credit card in other countries and they won't charge you a fee. There is just a host of benefits with credit cards beyond just the miles and points, but the miles and points are the main reason that we do it. So basically, what I would tell you is when you're looking for a credit card, there's a few things I would consider. Look up what the point value is for that credit card, because not all credit cards are equal. Some point, like a lot of hotels, are hardly worth getting just unless you're a really loyal member to them, because often their points are only worth like half a cent each. So make sure you understand how much the points are worth of that particular card. Look at what kind of sign-up bonus they're offering. Look at how much you're getting back for every dollar you spend. Some other credit cards will offer certain categories higher, like groceries, you might get 5x back per dollar. Gas, you might get 3x, but I personally like to make sure I have a credit card where I get at least 2 points per dollar for anything across the board. And Capital One Venture, all of that, or Venture and VentureX definitely give that. Another benefit I forgot to mention with Capital One Venture is if you book through their portal, I think the Venture gives you 3 points per dollar for flights. Don't count me on that. I should have researched some of this. But anyway, VentureX gives you 10 points per dollar back on, I believe it's car rentals and hotels if you book through their travel portal. So you book through their portal using your credit card, and if you spent $100, you would get 1,000 points. For flights, it's 5x. And so if you can just strategically use that kind of thing to build up more points as well. Now, my absolute favorite thing with all of these credit cards that makes it super, super easy is this thing. They have what's called a purchase eraser. And that means that you can take your points and put them towards anything that you spent that's in the travel category and just erase it off. So that's where you can take all your budget hacks and go online and find the best deals in all your different categories, strategically plan, put those on your credit card, and if they show up, if they're under the travel category, which most of them should be except maybe food, then you can take the points that you've accumulated on your credit card and just erase out those expenses. And so I think it's an excellent combination. The budget travel hacking combined with points, you team them together and you can get just amazing vacations for a very little cost to free. There is a whole other level, like I mentioned before, to getting the most value. A lot of these credit cards have transfer partners, so you could actually transfer your points to, say, a certain airline that they're partners with, and that airline might offer some incredible deals that are valued higher than a cent a point. So people will get into that kind of thing. But often what I've seen, I'm still just learning in here, but what I've often seen is when people really maximize their points higher than 1 cent per point, it's in the luxury category. So if you want to fly business class, first class, business class, if you want to stay at luxurious resorts that cost thousands and thousands of dollars a night, then that's where you get the most worth out of your points. However, from what I've seen, it still ends up costing a fair amount. So let's just say a room costs $3,000 a night to stay in, and you got an incredible deal where you can use a lot of points and your points are really maximized in value. However, you still have to pay out of pocket like $500-600 for that night. Sure, you might have been saving whatever the difference is between $3,000 and $600. You might have been saving like $2,400, but you're still spending $600. Does that make sense? It's sort of like the sale deal, like, oh, this is on sale, I should buy it, when you really didn't need it in the first place. And so for us, we love culture, we love traveling and seeing, and if we have to stay in a non-luxurious place, just a simple little home, and pay $100 a night, $150 a night that we can pay for with points, but that's so much cheaper than paying $600 a night in a $3,000 a night value, if that makes sense. So we still prefer the budget strategy combined with points because in the long run, you still, at least for us, I think we get to travel more, see more places, but we're not at the luxurious end of travel. So I just recommend starting simple. I really think the Capital One Venture series of cards are an incredible place to start. They're super easy to use. You can just purchase, erase off your stuff. And also there's other tips and tricks that go along with Capital One Venture, but that is my basic strategy. A few more side tips, just kind of like money hacks here at the end with credit cards. One thing that I like to do if you're kind of new in this credit card thing, if you like the idea of not having a bill that you have to pay at the end of each month, so a credit card statement, I personally like to call up the credit card company and try to get my statement to run as close with the month as possible, where it closes out at the end of the month or the beginning of the following month. That way I can run my statements with months instead of like halfway through the month it closes out. So what I like to do a lot, if you budget, and let's just say you have a certain amount of expenses, you can have a separate account that is just for the credit card to pay it off. So if you know that your expenses are an X amount, you can put your so you have the money for all your expenses for that next month's budget and you put it into the credit card bank account. Excuse me, and then you know it's there, and you keep track of what you're spending on your credit card, and then when the statement finishes and you have to pay off your lump sum, you have it in your specific bank account that you did not touch. Excuse my voice. Another way you can do it, if you prefer like using it more like a debit card, every time you swipe your card, let's say you go get groceries, you spend $250 on groceries, and then you come home and you transfer $250 out of your main checking account and put it into the checking account that is just for the credit card. And then in your head, it's like, okay, the money's there to pay the card off when the statement is due. So that's like a little thing you can do. However, I have taken it further and I have opened up a savings account. Right now, interest rates are really high. And we have suddenly in the last few years, and we were just made aware of this in the last year, that, hey, high yield savings accounts are suddenly offering 5% interest for really good ones instead of like the 0.1% that used to be back, you know, pre-COVID. And so this actually makes a big deal. So let's just say you're maximizing your credit card. This is how I do it, so hang in here with me. So let's just say that you're pre-planning your whole budget, and let's just pretend your expenses for the month are $3,000. I don't know where this falls in the average family. I looked it up, and it said the average spend monthly for a family of 4 is $8,640. I thought that seems extremely high. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. To me, that sounds like a crazy amount because that's almost, rounded up would be 9,000, so 12 times 9 is that's just over $100,000 income where absolutely everything is being spent. Like, that seems absolutely crazy. So let's just even chop that down, way down. Let's just put it at 3,000. And I think this is probably a little bit high too for some families. I don't know. But let's just say you can put $3,000 a month on your credit card. And once you start putting like everything you can think of, insurance, groceries, your water bill, your electric bill, you know, all the things that you have to pay every month, you put it on your credit card and then you're earning cash back on it. But anyway, let's just say that you know for the expense that you have for the following month, it's going to be around $3,000. And you put that into a separate account that is meant to pay off the credit card. Okay, now bear with me here. If you open up a high yield savings account, and the ticket is you have to make sure that they don't charge any fees for having it under a certain balance. Some banks do that. You have to have your savings account at a certain amount or they'll charge you a fee, a monthly fee. Another thing, you want to make sure they have no minimum withdrawals or deposit requirements. Like, there's no fees or requirements. You can just open the account and they'll pay you interest. We use Forbright Bank. It's an online banking company just for our savings. And I don't think they charge any fees from my research, but just do your own research as well. Anyway, so if you would put your $3,000 in ahead of time and you have it in the savings account and it's every day it's earning interest for you. Meanwhile, you're spending everything on the credit card instead of every time using a debit card to take it out of your account. So your money is earning interest in the savings while your credit card is holding your money for a month with all your spending. Then the credit card company closes that month and gives you a statement and says, here's your $3,000 that you owe us. Okay, you already have the $3,000 in your savings account. Now you just go into your credit card and you don't pay it right away. You pay it, schedule it to pay on the due date. Now the due date is usually like 28 days later. So I just go in there. So you would just go in there and say, pay this on the due date and pay the whole amount of $3,000. Definitely pay the whole amount or you'll be charged interest. And then you can set it and forget it. You know that your $3,000 is in the savings and you're not touching it, and the credit card company is automatically just going to pay it on the due date. And what this does is it gives you basically almost 2 whole months of $3,000 earning interest for you at 5%. And if I figured out correctly, that's about $24. I know it's not that much. However, all the little things add up, and over a year, that's about $150 you get in interest simply from letting your money sit in a savings account instead of a bank account, utilizing your credit card company, and then also pushing off your payment until the due date. Suddenly you were using their money to earn you interest. Does that make sense? But you're still not overpaying, you're still not paying them interest, you're always paying on time. I hope I didn't lose you with that, but that is one little strategy we use, and it really helps out. If you run a business, if you have any kind of lots of overhead, that can really help you out. If you have a lot more expenses and stuff. Another thing, if you're trying to do family vacation for completely free, like I mentioned before, usually the food part of it comes out of our pocket, or any entertainment, as that doesn't really fall under the travel category. So if you want to pay that off for free, one way that we've done it, but I know this is a little bit more exclusive to me, is bringing your skill sets to the table. And by doing that, you could so I was a photographer before I was a YouTuber. I got to know my camera somewhat well, and then I became a YouTuber, and so obviously there's advantages with that. I can offer some things to brands for giving them a shout out. We've done that. And then also I have been able to make promo videos with some of our footage for brands. Like our Alaska trip, I sold a promotional video that actually paid us for the trip. I also took pictures of an Airbnb we stayed with, and gave it to the lady in exchange for our stay. So our Alaska trip actually paid us to go on the trip. And that was amazing. It was this incredible feeling. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I was able to do this and give my family this incredible experience. And then for Hawaii, actually, something very similar happened. I had reached out to Shaka Guide to see if they wanted to do a small segment, a sponsor on a video, because we love their app on our Hawaii trip. and they asked if they could buy some of our footage, and I said sure. And so we worked out a deal, and it ended up where our expenses for the trip was very, very, like it ended up paying the rest of the majority of what we still had paid out of pocket for the trip. I mean, we still had expenses on the trip, but it was like quite budget friendly. So it's things like that. So that sometimes your skill set, like think outside of the box. What could you do? But then at the same time, you know, Nolan will chide me sometimes. He's like, it's time we go somewhere and you actually vacation, because you're always working. Like I'll be working for someone else. I'll be taking pictures of their place. I'll be doing a promotional. Maybe I'll come home and then I'll be putting a video together and trying to sell it to the brand. And so he's like, sometimes you need a vacation too. And so there is a downside of that. But I would rather work and still get to go on these vacations than not at all. And one other tip that you can do is sort of similar to credit card churning, but I wouldn't do it probably as much as credit cards, is there's banks offer promotions for opening up a bank account with them. And often it's like $200, $300, $500 if you just deposit and do whatever their requirements are. So if you need a little bit extra cash towards for your trip that you're planning, and you need something to put towards your groceries, your food, and any other expenses, you could go that route. Open up a bank account, sign up with a new bank, and collect the reward that they give you in a few months, and there you go. You can have a free trip. I don't recommend that one quite as much. You don't want to just be switching banks all over the place, but it is something people do, and you don't have to stick with them if you don't want to. And I don't think it hurts your credit, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, so hopefully this was helpful, and I don't know if this was talking any less than my previous one, but I hope you can use some of these tips and strategize, and yeah, happy travels. This is how we have done it. I hope you can figure out how to take your family, because I know these days money is tight and it can be hard to have extras above your living expenses. But I think if we can strategize and be wise and see where our money is being spent, maybe do some savings every month towards a family vacation, if that's what your plan is, and then use all these budgeting tips and sign up for some credit cards. Be wise with your credit cards and just make everything work for you, and you got it. All right, I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. How annoying. I just realized after filming the whole thing that I had a stain right on my jacket. Okay, I'm not editing it out. This is me in real life. I'm a stay-at-home mom. It's who I am. I feed children. I get food splotches. Don't judge my jacket.